I'm Theresa-Marie Rhyne, and I'm here to talk to you today about my data visualization adventures with Pantone's 2023 Color of the Year, Viva Magenta. Since 2000, the Pantone Institute selects a color of the year, and this year it is indeed Viva Magenta, an existing color in the Pantone library. It has a hex code of BE3455, and we need to use that hex code if we want to create sequential and diverging color schemes. Okay, if we take a closer look at Viva Magenta, we see that we can create a single hue sequential color scheme that starts with a light pink and ends in Viva Magenta, using a monochromatic color harmony that's one hue with tints, tones, and shades. On the color wheel, it becomes a straight line from the white point to the magenta, Viva Magenta hue. Okay, so here we have it. Here's my Viva Magenta sequence, a single hue sequential color scheme that I use the Adobe Color app to build. Now, I went ahead and applied it to data visualization. I applied it to a bar chart example of forecasted data. And then I checked it with a color blindness simulator, and happily, it passed color deficiencies. So I went on to my next adventure, which was building a diverging color scheme. Now, to do that, we need to take Viva Magenta and fuse it with another color, another sequential color scheme, and have like a white midpoint. So I'm going to use Viva Magenta and its complement in Pantone language. That is waterfall. So we have Viva Magenta and waterfall and a white midpoint in the middle. Now, to remind ourselves, a complementary color refers to two colors that oppose each other on the color wheel. So now we have Viva Magenta, waterfall divergence, and I applied that to another data visualization example, but I need to check for color deficiency. So I used the color blindness simulator, and happily, the 5 different colors that are in this color scheme are distinguishable for somebody who has protanopy, a red cone deficiency, deuteranopy, a green cone deficiency, or tritanopy, a blue cone color deficiency. Now, for the protanopy and deuteranopy examples, they won't exactly see Viva Magenta and waterfall, but they see 5 different colors, so it passes color deficiency. Back in January 2023, I wrote a Nightingale article on some other Viva Magenta waterfall experiences I had, and you can check it out by going to the Nightingale website. But there's more. I love to write about color, and I do it very often in Nightingale and another online journal called UX Collective. And here you can see a montage of various articles that I've written over the last 2 years. I've also written a book. It's called Applying Color Theory to Digital Media and Visualization, and it's published by CRC Press. Okay, I have had the opportunity to have lots of colleagues help me learn a lot about colorizing digital media and visualization, and I'm very indebted to them. Now, for my writings for Nightingale, I'm particularly indebted to Georges Hattab and Maria Vilas for their thoughtful edits in improving my original discussions. So, all my life, I've had many family members and colleagues encourage me to colorize. So, I'm also specifically indebted to them for enduring my colorization craziness. I have had a great time talking to you today. Now, one last thing. I have been exploring whether I can get some Viva Magenta tennis shoes. And I can! Have a terrific time at the Outlier conference, and thank you for listening to me.
I would love to know, how did you think of this project? Like, what have you always been following the Pantone color of the year, and magenta was the one that stuck out with you? Have you been doing, or is this a totally new thing? Like, how did you get? What was your inspiration here?
Yeah, that was it. You nailed it. I always follow. As a matter of fact, last year I did an outlier talk on Berry Perry, which was the 2022 color of the year. So I always follow it. I try to make diverging and sequential color schemes so I can use them in visualization because there's lots of examples like where you're doing financial things or whatever, and it's nice to kind of end with a color of the year for that particular year. So I do that.
That's great. That's awesome. I also really appreciate that you spent so much time talking about how to make it accessible and all the efforts that you went through to do that. So, has accessibility always been like a passion of yours? Is it something that you tend to practice, or how did you sort of explore that
Boy.
since that's such a topic?
Well, now accessibility, I have been very involved with physical accessibility for a very, very long time. It was actually when I was in school at Stanford University, it was actually my senior design project. So I've been doing it for a long time. And then when I got into color, um, I extended that to looking at color deficiencies because I quickly learned I had many experiences where I worked with scientists and they couldn't see my data visualizations because of being having color deficiencies. So I quickly got into it.
For sure. Yeah. I love that. So, any advice for folks? And I see Lisa in the chat saying accessibility is so important. Trying to be more mindful of this as I design viz. Excellent. I'll take a look at the feedback. I apologize if it's on my end. I'll try to switch to my headphones. But any advice for folks that you had undertaking this work? Like, what if they're excited about doing these kinds of visualizations, or starting to be more thoughtful about accessibility in their designs? Any advice that you might give for somebody starting out?
Right. The color blindness simulator, COBLIS, is freely available. And you can take any image through it. I just did it. I work on a new color story every single day, and you can take any image through it, and it will give you the accessibilities. There's three kinds of color deficiencies. Uh, we have three kinds of cones in our eyes: a red cone, a green cone, and a blue cone. And the color deficiencies match up with that, and you can check that because it does make a difference. So that's what I would recommend. I use Pantone a lot. I use Adobe Color a lot. That's another free tool. Adobe Color is free. Pantone is not. There, we'll try to encourage you to buy their Pantone Connect, but I recommend using Adobe Color. And I also use Viz Palette a lot to check what my colors will look like. That's another free tool by Elijah Meeks and Susie Liu. So I encourage people to use that. And I just say have a good time with it all. And there are apps also. There's an Adobe um, color app that you can get and you can download for free, and which works on across multiple platforms. And that will allow, like, if you're walking around, you might not see Viva Magenta in the world, but you might see some scenes or things that you like, a sunset, and you can capture those colors and add those to your color inventory. So I would recommend you do that. Or take a picture, like if you're at a museum or something, take a picture of it and put that in and take the color palette. You're not supposed to copy the image in a museum, but there's nothing that says you can't take the color palette, just so people
There you
know.
go.
Their color palettes are not copyrighted,
I love it.
and
Okay, I guess
Artists steal.
they reinvent. I think that's how we'll put it that
Okay,
way.
reinvent is nice. That's a nice word to say.
I think last question before we let you go and invite our next speaker. How do we get your work in front of Pantone? Like, have you ever reached out to them that you're kind of undertaking this? Would that be something you consider? Is kind of teaming up?
I have I have done some work for Pantone and been Pantone is very protective. I've been under non-disclosure with Pantone with regards to the development of Pantone Connect because I have a book that describes that. So yes, I am not. Pantone's very aware of my work and the work that I've done. Thank you very much, though.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to invite up our next lightning talks. Everyone say goodbye to Theresa-Marie. Thank you for your time.